Before we get into the video, please consider subscribing, liking, and clicking the Discord link down below. Lots of cool stuff going on down there as we basically talk about nerd stuff and whatever else. That said, enjoy. What's up everybody, Gojin the Makai Phantom approaching ya. So, what many of you would already know, a few months back, Kamen Rider Black Sun hit Amazon Prime Video. Luckily, most people can agree it's fucking awesome and gave what it promised. Multiple, myself included, discussing the possibilities of what a Black RX can do. Some even argue it beats the original, and I'm not completely opposed to that opinion, as good as 87 is. But handling political topics, you're bound to piss off some moron on the spectrum. And I mean that in more ways than one! To be fair, sometimes there's a reason for it, often relating to it being preachy, hateful, or just poor handling of said topics. But then there's situations like Prey, where people are making false woke claims because it happens to carry a left-leaning message, or worse, like Black Sun's case, it criticizes both sides. But maybe this video will offer some food for thought? Let's find out. That's what the might say! Okay, an Offspring intro. I like your style. Let's continue.
Kamen Rider Black Sun is a perfect example of how not to do a reboot.
I'm sorry. It sounds like he just got done deep-throating a group of black dicks after he begged them on his knees to do him instead of his girl.
From the pretentious rewrites, to the disappointing action, and even relegating the titular main character, whose name is the title of the frickin' show, and turning him into a glorified side character is unforgivable.
Did they? I seen it more as there was a focus on each party, as it's not like she was in every scene with Kotaro in current day alone. Not to mention the time jumps it did each episode, focusing solely on them in the past. Does this guy want Daddy Kotaro to put it in his ass? I mean, listening to his voice and looking at Big Daddy Kotaro here, he'll utterly destroy that boy pussy after inserting the entire next generation. Oh, Kotaro-senpai, don't come at me!
Yeah!
This is exactly what happens when you give a series into the hands of people who have no idea what they're doing or what made people love it to begin with.
Really? It seemed quite respectful to me. It literally takes the base plot of the original show and only wraps it in a political coating to add a shade of realism to the property. It literally redoes shots with the base plot being intact.
Taking the simple but effective story of a dude in a bug costume fighting against the evils of mutant cyborgs in order to save the world, and turning it into a story about the evils of racial prejudice is just the kind of stupid I would expect from modern Hollywood and not a Kamen Rider story.
Dude, are you fucking crying? I love Kamen Rider, but it's literally just a TV show. Chill. Did you just want a remake of Black? Because this is a reimagining. If you want that original story with a less complex narrative and more family-friendly nature, it still exists. You talk like the story isn't the same. While it's no longer a cyborg, the core aspects are still there. It just changes some things to be more like Amazon's and adds to the story. It sounds more to me like you're just mad it exists. Also, if you compare this to Hollywood, you really haven't been thinking critically about this show, and the whole point is everyone is fucking bad. I'll just clip my review here, as I said everything I needed there. What I like about this reimagining is they took advantage of the iconic rivalry between friends the original Black had, but built from the ground up through a culture war environment to add weight of realism and thought-provoking overtones. Now you might ask, what does Black Sun do that separates its themes from the ones Amazon's provided? Basically, what Amazon's aimed for was showing the perspective for both sides. They have their well-meanings, but due to the convoluted nature of politics, there's an argument to be made for most things, thus exploring the darker aspects on how they can get carried away. What Black Sun goes for is similar in the way we got two rivals around a deeper meaning, but goes to a classical liberal point of view. By that, I mean we have the extreme right on the streets beating up minorities and advocating for their extermination just for being different. The radical left who aims to turn the tables by making the Kaijin the leading class and the genocide of humanity, still segregating them as a result. The corrupt government who tries to appeal to the progressive side but behind the scenes are doing shady crap for their own benefit. and the group of reason of the original members of Gorgom wanting actual equality between the groups where humans and Kaijin can live in harmony.
And before all you fanboys start typing away in the comment section about how wrong I am, do not forget, the core appeal of tokusatsu, whether it's Kamen Rider to Garo to frickin' Power Rangers, has always been this. Dudes in goofy costumes beating the crap out of each other.
Speak for yourself. Do you know how this technique started? Literally, it's been having heavy themes from the very beginning with Gojira, and even Kamen Rider stepped away from that simplicity it once had outside of some adaptations. Do you realize you're indirectly disrespecting this stuff? Yeah, the original Black had aged, but for its time, what they brought to television was pretty dang impressive considering the amount they had to make, which indeed has its appeal. It's nice being able to witness these artists do the best they can with their limited budgets and schedules for a TV show that has something new each episode.
And yeah, I know, there's all the different themes and context of each different series, yada yada yada, I get that. But did we really need to turn Gorgum into the frickin' Black Panthers? And no, not the Marvel kind.
Are you really making a comparison to that? Again, Gorgom isn't portrayed to be doing what's right. They're here to show how politicians will say all this progressive crap to appeal to the new generation, but really are doing shitty things behind the scenes like Imperial Japan. The priests were meant to have intentions of getting equality, but still are doing bad things for the party to get that right. And eventually, some of them see that.
Back to my point, the fight scenes for a Kamen Rider series, I have to say, was kind of a letdown. Sure, it's a bit more on the violent side than you would see from anything from the TV series, but compared to something like Kamen Rider Amazons, I gotta say, the choreographers were really holding back.
Dude, Black Sun is literally TVMA versus a TV-14 show. Amazons got pretty gory, but I don't recall intestines being ripped out of their stomach and pulled around till eventually ripping their head off with pure brute strength. A heart got ripped out in the final judgment, but due to the size of the Creation King, we get a closer look at the details of a similar fatality. What are you on about?
And I know they're going for the grittier, more realistic tone and all that, but come on, man. This is tokusatsu. When someone does a rider kick and doesn't fucking explode into a billion pieces, you're doing something wrong.
That's your preference. They aren't obligated to do that. This show has a bigger focus on gore anyway, and stuff like explosions is to avoid getting overly violent for their younger crowd. Now you can make a gruesome rider kick, but the use of it here on Shadow Moon was made to be a surprise. And Shadow Moon, do you really want him getting bitch made like that? Nice way to tone down the threat level there in the ending drama.
And well, yes, the final fight between Black Sun and Shadow Moon is definitely the best action piece in the show. That's really not saying much. It could have been a lot better. For one thing, the final encounter is just way too short. You expect something like the Battle of Heroes or Revenge of the Sith, but what we get is something that isn't much longer than a single fight scene in any singular episode of Kamen Rider.
Whoa, slow down there, princess. Your pussy is getting in a twist, making you say a bunch of retarded shit. It literally starts at the 4-minute and some mark and ends at around 15 minutes, just like the original show. Yes, in the original, there's the end of episode 50 building up towards it, but in Black Sun, you had the prior episode where he absolutely slaughtered Kotaro. Yes, the episode is the length of 2, and there's moments of dialogue edited in between. But you gotta remember, this isn't targeting children, so there isn't even a necessity to have a fight every episode. I'm not belittling the original for primarily targeting kids because that's fucking stupid, and there's a lot of great entertainment targeting a younger crowd, with Black being one of them. But a big reason every episode of most Rider shows carry a fight in some form, while the adults can appreciate the every episode action and the deeper, darker elements added for them. Also, your other example is Revenge of the Sith, which is an entry to another franchise primarily aimed at kids. Just saying.
And I think the cause of that is the fact that the story, despite being 10 episodes long, each one rating from 40 minutes to an hour, none of it actually focuses on Black Sun as a character.
Again, how does he not serve an importance? Kotaro trained her how to fight after so long of fearing for her life, and even was the one who took his last breath because he needed her to. He's got his own thing going on too, as throughout, he begins to remember what he fought for back in the day from his time with Aoi, and over time he learns to confront his past demons, which is what the ending during his fight with Shadow Moon, knowing leaving him back in the day was one of the seeds that turned Nobuhiko into what he is now. If anything, I'd argue there are 3 main characters to this story: Kotaro, Nobuhiko, and Aoi. You're just upset it takes a different approach from its source material.
And boy, the fact in the final episode he's getting replaced by this random teenage girl who was made up just for their show, that really rubbed me the wrong way. I am sick and tired of reboots pulling this kind of shit.
Could you even call this a review? No offense, kid, but nothing here has been objective. You're simply complaining about concept, whether or not it does those right or wrong. Again, you have the original. This is a reimagining, not just a remake. You should be glad this stays closer to the source material than Amazon's, as while that reinvented the core elements, there's no shot or scene I can think of that's blatant. You have to analyze it to know what it takes from the series outside of the designs and use of gore.
And the thing just really makes this situation frustrating is that Kamen Rider as a series has done these gritty reboots for the Showa-era shows right before. The first season of Kamen Rider Amazons back in, I want to say 2016, did a pretty good job of reworking the source material for a new show while still maintaining the appeal of what made Amazons interesting to begin with, and that was the violent, gory action.
I agree, Amazons did an incredible job. As for example, you have the mole who's friends with the heroes and helps them battle other Amazons. You got Haruka, while isn't the Jungle Boy Amazon was. He was a young beast who was found and raised into being a wild adult. Kinda the original concept turned on its head. But again, Black Sun did what Amazons did, taking a new concept and coding it around the original. Only there's more differences there, being a lot of the main aspects are easy to recognize. Like the main enemies still being the Creation King worshipping cult called Gorgom, there's still a big focus on the relationship of Kotaro and Nobuhiko from past friendship to current day rivals. The darker tone is still there, just up due to being for adults, not to mention the characters' names remain intact.
And no, I'm not saying that Black Sun needed to be Amazon Season 3, but what I am saying is that the changes they decided to make to the source material doesn't work for the story it originally had.
Care to explain how? Just seems to me you're making a bunch of baseless claims because certain aspects didn't appeal to you personally. I get opinions differ, but when you're saying something is bad in a more complex way than I don't enjoy this, then you have no argument to stand on.
And the story spends so much time around the issue of racial prejudice, which, again, I need to stress, didn't exist in the original Kamen Rider Black or Black RX, that by the end of each episode you are just begging, pleading for the story to actually feel like Kamen Rider again.
Oh, Jesus Christ. This is a reimagining. Of course it wasn't in the original show. Watch any reimagining, including prior entries in this series, and you'll see what I mean. Not to mention that's literally the point of making an adult-aimed Kamen Rider series, is to tread places even a Japanese kid show won't. While I won't say Kamen Rider is as political as Godzilla with its history, it sure as hell has tackled them before. Multiple times, actually. 00 is about how capitalism has its pros. Double is anti-drugs. The original, he's fighting literal Nazis. It's just more obvious here, and is that a problem? No. I explained this in my review. First of all, if you made themes any less heavy-handled, it would change a fuck ton of the concept, as one of the aspects that makes it stand as a new show is the political coding it wraps around the existing story. Making that subtle, you might as well just remake Black with a few hints dropped in the pudding for the viewer to pick out themselves. At this point, you're literally criticizing it for existing.
As well as the costume designs really cheaping out. I mean, sure, the Black Sun and Shadow Moon costumes look pretty cool, but everyone else is just cheap Halloween masks and gloves and not much else. I've seen better monster costumes from the frickin' Putty Patrol than this show.
You okay, buddy? It sounds like you're stroking your cock as you mentioned the flamboyant clay people. Like, I get nobody else will fuck you, so a golem sounds pretty hot and all, but this is a fucking review for Christ's sake. I didn't click to hear you bust one out. Are we really gonna ignore Anemone, the Creation King, and the Crab Kaijin? A lot of them, at their worst, look like something you'd expect from the longer shows. Which, yeah, they've got an excuse because they're longer, But considering how good the main kaijin tend to look, I'm not gonna complain, as I understand corners need to be cut somewhere. For the background kaijin, they're pretty much in the same boat as the golems and things like them in toku shows. Only you're wrong about them looking worse, since let's compare the details here. Again, no disrespect towards those shows, I love them, but they're longer, so they don't have the luxury of making things look this convincing. But while neither can make much emotion, and admittedly when you look into Lizard's eyes it screams series prop, it's given the opportunity to give detail like feathers, scales, and other things, while the Pussy Patrol, I say that because look at the photo he used, this is them cornering his mom before a gangbang, they are very much wearing a bodysuit with lumps and the like.
Do I think Kamen Rider Black Sun is a bad show? Yes. But do I think it's a bad reboot, adaptation, or whatever you want to call it, as, say, Zack Snyder's DC Universe or anything being produced for Disney+? No.
Bro, it's better than anything from the MCU, even with its bits of comedic elements, and it's not even close.
I will say, despite all the problems I have with the writing, I did at least get some enjoyment out of it.
No joke, I guarantee this is his style of critique while watching the Putty Patrol give his mom a sloppy joe.
And if even after hearing all of this, if you still feel the need to watch Kamen Rider Black Sun for whatever reason, go right ahead, man, you do you, but there is a ton, and I mean a ton of much better tokusatsu out there that is much more worth your time than this.
Okay, I have to say, I do respect this courtesy here. I know I've done plenty of jabs throughout this video for entertainment purposes. He doesn't seem like a bad guy though, and I respect how he's been handling the comment section. So hopefully, a constructive video here can give you some actual food for thought. Maybe you'll change your mind, maybe you won't, I don't know. I don't want to make any assumptions, but please, oh please, don't let crazy anti-SJW YouTubers like The Quartering or God forbid Geeks and Gamers get to your head. I'm saying this as someone who used to be obsessed with that type of content, and it was a shithole of toxicity and grifting. There's still some anti-SJWs I like, even if I don't always agree with them, but be picky about who you watch and don't let it get to your head like I did, because it can make you misjudge things, focus too much on negativity, and just create unnecessary bullshit that you don't need. That said, we have reached the end of the video, so please comment your thoughts down below, smash that like button, and share it around. Also check out my review for Kamen Rider Black Sun. Link is in the description down below, alongside my social media accounts and alt tech. This is Gojin the Makai Phantom, leaving the building.